Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And 2024 is the year where we are providing our entrepreneurs around the world the opportunity to sell their vision. Our show today is The Power of Etiquette and Manners, and we're going to be discussing the art of tipping. Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming sometimes, isn't it? Who to tip, how much to tip. We don't want to tip. It's the holidays. What is it that we do? Well, fortunately, we have our expert in-house, Mr. Philip Sykes, the principal and founder of the British School of Excellence, changing people's lives every single day. Let's welcome him to the program. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Very well, Dr. Jacalyn, and you?
I'm doing well as well. You know, I love this show. I love our Fridays when we get together.
Friday. Absolutely. Can you believe it?
It's already February, so time keeps changing, but the power of etiquette and manners does not.
That is for sure. Hopefully they're getting more powerful and impactful as life goes on. Interestingly, I received an article from a magazine recently, and I just need to just clarify which one it was. It was fascinating to read. It was on, I think it was either Forbes or Fortune magazine. And on that Fortune magazine, it was literally saying, which is really interesting. I think I might have even forwarded you the article, Dr. Jacalyn, was etiquette classes are coming to more than 60% of companies in 2024. And I totally appreciate that and totally get it, because I think I may have mentioned this on the program before, is that, yes, we talk about business to business and business to customer and customer to business, blah, blah, blah. But actually it's H to H, it's human to human. And the more that organizations can understand the power of etiquette and manners and your emotional intelligence, the more dynamic your business will be, the more profitable you will be. And not only that, the staff retention will remain stronger than ever before. So this is very, very powerful. And for anyone who thinks, oh, the sound of etiquette and manners and blah, 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 it's all, hot potato or fluffy stuff, you better start thinking again, because the power of etiquette and manners and emotional intelligence, if you take it on board and you bring it into your life and be consistent with it, in other words, make it a lifestyle choice, you will start to elevate faster than you've ever imagined.
I love what you just shared. You know what I'm wondering? Why did it take so long? I mean, I know why isn't a good question, but what do you think is the catalyst that's brought the power of etiquette and manners into the corporate fold, where leadership is thinking we need to do something in this area?
That's a great question. Personally, again, this is just my opinion, I truly feel that there's been a big disconnect over the last 15, 20 years. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, and that really does sort of lend itself to a bit of an explanation, and that is it's all about digital, it's all about robotics, it's all about AI, and all of these things, which is great. We must accept change, absolutely, and we've got to move forward, we've got to move with the times. But the most important thing is we need to stay current with ourselves and learn how to connect with one another. And that has been lost over the many years. I would say it's been corroding away for the last 20 odd years. And I think there's a disconnect in schools. Schools are all about academia. There are obviously certain schools where they hold no punches, and it is all about manners maketh a man or woman. And there are those schools out there, but they're very few and far between. And this is where it all starts. I think also that the world has changed in the sense that many people of all walks of life have managed to go out there and earn a penny or two. And some people have done exceptionally well for themselves, but they may have not been brought into this way of life. In other words, their upbringing might have been very different. And so do they know any better? No, they don't. And that's not a finger-pointing scenario at all. Actually, on the contrary, it's amazing how people are stepping up to getting themselves, bettering themselves and putting their best foot forward. However, what's been lost along the way is the importance of etiquette and manners and emotional intelligence development and that sort of things. That's my opinion. And for me, you will see it through the people that do incorporate consistency of etiquette and manners in their lives. They're emotionally intelligent. They handle things that much better. You'll often find that some of the top leaders out there, some of the top people that are really doing exceptionally well, have incredibly good EQ and hopefully predominantly a lot of empathy, because empathy is one of the key core skills that we really sort of need in life, not just in the workplace. And I truly believe people with strong EQ skills very rarely have bad etiquette and manners.
Such an important topic. And of course, at the British School of Excellence, you are empowering people, you're giving people confidence, and you're helping to change lives. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And our topic today is the art of tipping. And I think this is an area where people really get confused. Sometimes there's an attitude, well, that service was terrible, so I'm not leaving any money at all, not even realizing what could be going on in the back of the house. And this person is just the face of the business. And when it comes time to the holidays, it's kind of like you already have all that pressure to put out money for whatever. Now you've got to tip extra. Why do I have to tip extra? I'm here every week. I'm a good client. So let's start off with the fundamentals. At the British School of Excellence, you help educate people on what is proper behavior to be leading your life with respect and emotional intelligence. So what can you share with us about a definition of tipping?
For me, it's showing gratitude, and it's showing that you appreciate someone having done something remarkable or well for you. And I appreciate people are on an hourly wage, or they might be on a salary, and some industries pay less than others. And let's start off with the service industry, the service sector. So we're talking about hospitality, really, as in hotels and restaurants and coffee shops and that sort of thing. And it's generally fairly common in those sort of sectors. And I know it's very common in the US, very prominent in the US, is that a lot of the servers will work for just their tips and gratuities, and they must really get paid a couple of dollars to show up. But they really rely on the gratuities, whereas in other countries, it's not, they might get a decent wage, and gratuity is not expected, but it's obviously very well welcomed, if that's the right sort of English. And for me, I totally think that show appreciation, and many people in the service sector are not paid like they ought to be. They really aren't. They work exceptionally hard. But I think tipping, or call it a gratuity, needs to be earned with all due respect. It must never be expected. And at our organization, we very much encourage people to do reward the server or people for the good work and the way they've made you feel and treated you, despite the food maybe not being up to scratch. It's not their fault that the food is not up to scratch. That's the chef and that's the thing. But the person serving you, if they make your experience that much better, then I personally feel they deserve some form of recognition. And that is normally over and above a wonderful thank you and a compliment. If you can afford to add a minimum 10%, and I know in some countries that's frowned upon. I believe in America if I'm not incorrect in saying so, it starts around 15%, Dr. Jacalyn?
Yes, that's, many times if you go to a restaurant, and again, I've been to one in the last 6 months, they have a little chart, on the receipt, they have a suggested tipping, and it starts with 10 and then 15, 18, and then if you have a certain number of people in your party, it's automatically a certain rate, which that's a whole other subject. But something I really want to segue onto with what you're saying is, what if the person received good service but they don't have any extra money? And there's two schools of thought. Don't get the service if you can't afford to tip, or can you tip in a different way that's not money?
Sure, that's a massive question. Look, in a situation like that, I mean, this is going maybe a bit overboard, but again, you could write a really wonderful letter or note of thanks and post it or drop it off at the establishment. You could leave a beautiful review. Many organizations now rely heavily on their reviews, and even stipulate that I felt guilty. I didn't have anything to remunerate the staff member with. However, I just want to let everyone out there know that Fred, John, Michael, Mary was an exceptional server. I'd go back again and again, and next time I'll make sure that I'm armed with some cash to give a generous gratuity. It's, again, the thought of sending a gift could be rather lovely. It's just, I suppose, Dr. Jacalyn, a lovely thank you, a sincere thank you, and just explain that I really feel I'm hugely sorry that on this occasion I just don't have any coins or money, notes on me. Now, having said that, a lot of people aren't carrying money and notes anymore. Everything just seems to be on a credit card. And I know some establishments do not allow you to add a gratuity via the credit card, which is a bit unfair in the grand scheme of things, but that's the establishment's rules and regulations. And one of the reasons why I believe that is so is because the actual organization actually gets hit with charges. But I suppose, if I was being practical, they could pass that charge onto the service. So instead of getting $10, they might get $9, and at least they're getting a gratuity. So that's just my input on that.
I have this same belief. Something that I learned about that whole process is, for example, at a nail salon, I've seen this a lot, even though I don't get my nails done anymore, but you would go in and there's a sign that you cannot put tips on the credit card or your debit card. And then they have a machine there and you can get cash. It'll be like, there's a machine, get cash. And it's $3.50, it's $4.50, it's $5 extra fee for you to get the cash so that you can leave the tip. And so when I think about the process that restaurants use where you can include the tip, then it makes it seamless. It's easy. They could increase their prices of their food and then in turn give the server their pay in tips. But I've also heard that when an establishment allows you to put the tip onto the credit card, that it takes longer for that person to receive the tip as well.
That is true. That is true. However, at least hopefully they receive it. And again, I'm sure there's tax accounting machine. I know we're going off piece here, but there must be tax. What do you call it? Software that works out the differences and stuff on behalf of the server. Just something of interest. Here in the UK, most establishments, give or take, will add a 12.5% gratuity to your bill. Now, it does say it's at your discretion, but it's almost a given. And I'm not, there have been one or two occasions where I've actually said to the maitre d' or the manager that I'm actually not prepared to add, for you to allow to add the 12.5% because the service was non-existent. And that has, obviously, it's my prerogative. It's only happened once or twice. But I think an establishment, it's a little bit cheeky in a roundabout way because what one doesn't really know, are they utilizing that service charge to help support the payment of the waitering team, or does the waiter or waitering team have to pool that? Does it get pooled amongst the kitchen staff? I know establishments have different ways of splitting the revenue that comes through from the gratuities that do come into the business. So here in the UK, for those of you traveling to the UK, always just check, is the service included? Because The Americans tend to be incredibly generous. It's almost in many people's lives they've been brought up to show gratitude by giving a generous gratuity. If you want to add over and above the 12.5% that's been added, that's wonderful, which a lot of people do. But just be aware that it is generally, you can actually ask, is the gratuity included or not? And it'll be stipulated on your bill.
Excellent point. Thank you. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for you. The first is, what if you're known as a big tipper? You always leave a big tip, and then at some point you go, you know what? I just can't do it anymore. And so, Joe's used to you coming in for dinner and you're going to spot maybe 25, 30, 50% tip. And the next time you come in and you give Joe 15%, and Joe looks and goes, what happened? Did I do something wrong? You don't see the value that I bring. What do you do in that case?
I think as a waiter, as a server, I would ask Joe, may I ask, I know you've always been such a generous tipper, and I'm very grateful for this incredible generous tip yet again. You have in the past, I'm not asking for more money, but you have in the past been overly generous with your gratuity. I just hope this is not a reflection on my service. Wording it correctly is very important. Being very, let's say, diplomatic, using polished language skills would help you understand, because it's important as a waiter. Remember, if you're proud and you've always served Joe very well, you're going to doubt yourself and say, where did I slip up? And so I don't think there's any harm. I mean, it depends which establishment it is. You might want to do it in private, or you just leave it and walk away and just say, look, I gave him my best. He knows I've given my best. And in your own mindset, just say, maybe that's all Joe could afford to pay. Maybe the stock market went down or something. I don't know. But that's a very, very fine line. It's the nice question, that one, Dr. Jacalyn.
I like to come up with the challenging questions, and you always have the answer. Here's another one. So it's pretty clear that if you get certain services, you're going to give a tip, right? You're going to get your hair done, whatever it is. But what about when you get good service from your doctor? What about if you have an exterminator come to your home and they do a good job? How do we know who to tip and how much?
Again, it's not overly common that I've never come across, let's say, giving a tip to a medical professional or anything like that. I mean, in that sort of scenario, I think a very beautifully worded card, note, and find out potentially what that medical person enjoys. Is it a nice bottle of wine or flowers or chocolates, and gift them that. On the exterminator side of things, I suppose it's very similar to having a handyman around at your house, and they've charged you $40 an hour, and let's say hypothetically, and they've done 2 hours work, and it's 80, and you leave and you say keep the change. That would be lovely to be able to do that if you're in that sort of position, especially if they've done a very good job for you. That is, in my opinion, a wonderful way to handle that sort of situation. Another way to handle these sort of situations, in my opinion, is to be a good referee. Everyone needs an advocate, and if you can be an advocate for someone's profession, that's a big boom. As long as that professional doesn't slip up, because it's going to fire back on you, because you must use my builder, he's fantastic, and next minute he knocks the wrong wall down, and you're going to say, Philip, how the heck did you recommend this build to me? He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So there's a fine line, but I think recommendation, the art of good recommendation, as long as you trust the individual that you've had good service from, then refer them, and that's a lovely way of passing on added business, and that's what I'm a big fan of doing.
I love that, referrals. That's so important. Now, what about from the perspective of the person who is providing the service? So I provide a service and I say to you, Philip, I just want to let you know that a big part of what I get paid is by tips. So even though I'm hanging my shingle here under XYZ brand, tipping is a big part of how I get paid, and you haven't given me a tip. Would you consider giving me one?
You've got to be very fair, that is a huge question. I mean, you've got to be quite ballsy, if you don't mind me using that term, to bring that to light. Again, I would use the art of good language. I'd be very diplomatic about it. I would think about how I'm going to position that sort of prompt, because that is, with all due respect, gratitude, gratuities, one mustn't expect them. Even though you've been serving and you're in the service sector, don't expect. I mean, do the best you can possibly do. And look, I've been there many years ago. I love my waitering days. It taught me an immense amount, and I know for a fact I was an exceptionally good waiter, exceptionally good. I'd never left a stone unturned. And what came first was the guest. And there were one or two occasions where I'd really done everything in my power to make the evening memorable, and got either a very small gratuity or none at all, and it hits you, and you go, oh, "What did I do wrong?" Or, "Gee, that's mean," but you can't show it. So you walk away and you say, sometimes you win things and other times you lose things, and hopefully that's where Joe comes in and gives you that 30% tip, and that sort of helps balance things up. But you're going to win most of the time, hopefully, but there are times when you're going to feel a bit let down. But again, easier said than done. Try not to take it personally. And if there is an issue, if you've really, really broken your back, again, I would approach that individual and say, look, I love feedback, because from feedback I can feed forward, I can become better. I'm not necessarily asking you to give me any money, but where is there anything I could improve on? And leave it at that.
Yeah, I like the direction you're going in. I've noticed more and more places I go into, they have tip jars. And it might say in the summer, for example, college fund, or, that's a fun one, really, because you can see the young high school students are working towards college. But many places that I go to, you wouldn't think there would be a tip jar out, but yet there is. So does that mean when I'm teaching a fitness class that I should walk around with a cup and say tips, tips, tips? Like, where does it end? Because many times you feel like if you've been used to going to an establishment and there wasn't any request for tips, and now there is, and they're looking at you and you're looking at them. And even now on the devices where everything's electronic, and I see them looking to see, are you going to select a tip? And sometimes people say, oh, you can just put in the tip right there, go ahead. And they're watching, so of course you have to do it. But it feels like a lot of pressure to be tipping all the time in venues when we weren't normally tipping.
Firstly, Dr. Jacalyn, I think you should get a big tin mug and a bell and go around ding, 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 and with a big sign saying tip for the most incredible instructor, and make sure you get your money worth of tips from every single person. On a serious note, let's look at tipping from an aspect of it needs to be based on the level of service, firstly. Also take into account that cultural differences come into play here. Some countries don't believe in tipping. They really and truly don't. So one needs to take that on board. Is it a cultural thing? And maybe because they don't tip, and so, for example, in Japan, it can be seen as insulting. So it's a fine line. And I know I'm diversing slightly on your question, but I think, again, if you're in a specific role in a specific country where gratuities and tips are fairly much the norm, then one would be, I think, slightly put onto the back foot and maybe even very offended when a tip does not come through. I think, again, for the server to sort of make it very apparent that you ought to tip, I think, again, the server needs to read the person as best they possibly can. And maybe the other person needs a bit of guidance and steering. Maybe the customer needs that guidance and steering. I think there's horses. I don't think one size fits all one here. This is sort of, I think, case by case, if that's helpful.
It definitely is helpful, and I appreciate it. I have another question for you. I don't know where I don't mean to throw you hard questions, but they just come up. So leave what would be considered an insulting tip or no tip. And I have an example. I remember many, many years ago, I was with some family members and we went to a restaurant and the service was horrible. And the person paying left a tip, and the tip was a quarter. one silver quarter. And as we got into our car, the server came out and threw it at my family member and said, "You know where to stick this." I'll never forget that. And so I thought to myself, would have been better if the person left no tip.
Definitely, that's an insult. I had a scene in my establishment back in Cape Town all those years ago, and a very similar sort of thing happened. And the waiter ran after the customer, said, "I think you need this more than I do," and handed it back to him. I think that is very disrespectful. It's almost saying to you, you know, what the hell? Just I've got nothing, but I'm going to leave something because it looks like I'm doing some form of gratitude or gratuity. If you can't afford a tip, then don't leave one at all. Walk away and say, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm out of cash. Don't on this occasion have anything to leave on this occasion, but thank you for your service." I know the waiter and waitress is going to be very miserable about that, but it's as I said, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and most times, hopefully, you win. It's interesting. Many years ago, I was in New York, and we were getting a taxi to the airport, and we had the most awful taxi driver. He was rude, didn't help us put our bags in the car, drove like an absolute all over the shop. We got to the other end, and like you said, Dr. Jacalyn, out comes this thing to you can add a gratuity, and we didn't. And oh my word, he started spitting feathers. I mean, the abuse we got was extraordinary. So again, I really feel that at the end of the day, treat people with respect, be kind, do your utmost. Don't just live in expectance that, this is easy. No matter what I do, I'm going to get a tip. And I think as a customer, all customers out there, all you're expecting is good service, friendly service, people being kind, people being attentive, people showing that they enjoy what they do, not just a matter of fact, not just an order taker. You want them to exhilarate and again, make that a memorable, whether it be a memorable taxi ride or a memorable table service or a memorable, barman serving you, whatever it might be, just be conscious that you are there and you're in a position to either make or break an experience.
Well said. Well said. Now, what about this? You are getting some kind of service. Let's say it's a restaurant. And again, it's not at the standards. The food's not good. It's overcooked. And you pull the server aside, especially if you're with a group of people, you pull the person aside and say, "Listen, I'm really not happy with what happened today, but I'm not going to have it reflect on you. I'm going to give you the tip that I would normally give, but I'm letting you know that please communicate to your ownership that this wasn't a great experience, and I don't want to come back if this is how it's going to go for the next time, but I'm not going to take it out on you."
Wonderful. Wonderful. What a lovely approach. Because as I said earlier, the waitering team, as long as they've done a good job at serving you, and they've made every effort to make your evening as memorable as possible, over and above, obviously, what the quality of the food and that sort of thing. Despite that, I really feel that they're playing, it's teamwork. So again, they've played their side of the bargain. If the kitchen are letting the restaurant down, then that's a different scenario. I know a lot of people do take it out on the server and they say, "This has been rubbish. I'm not leaving a tip." But what I would do in that situation is actually find the maitre d' or the manager and say, "Look, with all due respect, we come here often or this is our first time here. We recommend come here. And quite honestly, we're very disappointed. And actually, I'd like you to remove some items off the bill because it hasn't been up to scratch. And we've been really disappointed. We hardly touched our meal." And that will, again, it might upset the maitre d' or the manager or the owner, but at least they're getting constructive input and feedback. You've done it in a nice way. You haven't thrown your toys out the cot. You haven't made a big scene in the restaurant. You've done it in a very discreet and yet a very helpful sort of way. Because if we don't get feedback, we're never going to feed forward. And many organizations tend to start off brilliantly, and all of a sudden, a year down the line or 2 years down the line, they start to fumble and fall and close down, and then they turn around and say, "Well, what did we do wrong?" Well, no one shared any feedback with us, so we didn't know whether we were doing it right, wrong, and because some people aren't experienced, and some people think it's a love project, or it's something that a vanity project. And I've always wanted to open a restaurant or a wine bar, and they get involved into an industry or business that I tell anyone out there, I've been there, I've got the t-shirt, I've got the key ring, I've got everything. It's a phenomenal industry to be in, but my gosh, is it hard work.
It is such hard work. And I love the fact that you shared that you were a server. I was also for one day and was a complete nightmare. So it's not everybody's good at it. I can tell you I was a zero. One thing I learned along the way, and I don't even know if it's relevant or if it's pertinent today, if someone who is providing a service is the owner of the business, you do not tip them.
I think Again, I think that's a bit unfair. I mean, yes, you're the owner, you're still running around making everything work, and by all means, feel free to tip the owner or the maitre d', because maybe the owner or maitre d' shares it amongst the team. Maybe it just helps the owner with that little bit of extra that he or she might need to I don't know, afford something that they've been working toward. I think it doesn't matter who or the status of the individual. It's all about whether you as an individual feel the person that's made your night so memorable, your evening or afternoon, whatever it is. If you feel as a patron, as a customer, that you want to leave a generous gratuity or gift, then go ahead and do it. Don't discount the fact that, oh, it's the owner, so they don't need anything. I think it's all in the service industry. It's all about working with people and getting rewarded for it. It's a nice reward.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. Something else I want to just share. There's a reality TV show. I don't know if you watch reality TV, but it's basically these people are on a yacht and they've been hired. There's a crew. And so they are taking care of the group of people who are on this yacht. And at the end, depending on the service, I've never seen it not happen, but there's an envelope, a white envelope filled with cash that they hand to the captain, and then the captain has to go and divvy it out to everyone. And they'll sit and reflect about how they did because the amount of cash was. So my question is, in that case, each person on board in the crew is getting tipped. Many times we go to an event or we're staying at a property and there's something going on, and numerous people are adding value to our experience. So then is it incumbent that we tip every single person? Because again, remember, people are on a budget. Let's say they're going on a cruise, for example, and they have just enough money for the cruise, and then they know they're going to have to tip. But how many people do you tip every single person, or you give whatever you can afford to the captain, and then the captain can divvy it out, even if it's not enough to divvy?
Yeah, look, again, that's quite an in-depth question, and we could take a deep dive into that. I know, but time's not on our side. But just from experience, in those sort of situations, I think the people, let's use a cruise. A lot of cruises do incorporate the gratuity into your package and offer you that option, so you don't feel like a heel when you disembark that you haven't given any gratuities. Now, in that sort of situation, there might be one or two people who really made an effort and went above and beyond. You can get an envelope and hand it to them personally. And I think that is a really nice way to handle that. So, for example, for those of you out there who are listening to the show and watching a show, if you've never cruised before, you'll get a waitering team that are assigned to you, and they will follow you around the ship each evening at the respective restaurants as you have been assigned to. And those, normally it's two people, and you could leave them a generous little extra, and the person who does your cabin looks after you the whole week, and you get beautiful towel falls and all those sort of things, which does, especially for the youngsters, it's a wow moment, and you can leave a specific gratuity for them. But the fact that you've included the gratuity, bearing in mind, if there are 2,000 people on board a cruise and they've all left 10, 15, or let's call it $100, it doesn't necessarily, that's a vast amount of money which will get divided amongst, I know it's a big crew, but at least they're all going to get a benefit from that. Now, in another situation, Dr. Jacalyn, which you referred to, is, again, I feel that a blanket gratuity. So in other words, if you stay at a hotel, you can sign your chits at the end, and if they've served you a margarita, you could add an extra $1 or $2. By the end of the week you've got your bill and you see all the extra added gratuities. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is as you sign out of the hotel, you give an extra $100 into the pool, might be another way of doing it. And then if there's certain people that have shined for you, maybe it's your chamber person, maybe it's a barman who's been very attentive and knows exactly what you want before you've even arrived at the bar, and it's served. There are little moments that people wow you. Then you can show a respect and gratefulness through a gratuity. One thing that I'm very keen on and I'm quite fastidious about is I always carry thank you cards with me wherever I go. And I will make a specific effort to write thank you notes to people that I've had the privilege of dealing or that have had served, and I've had the privilege of receiving their wonderful hospitality.
Thank you, Philip. I really appreciate your thoughtful answer. And something that I want to share, I just throw questions at you, and I really appreciate the fact that you take them. There's no script. But if we don't reward people, if we don't recognize people who are taking care of us, people will leave the industry because they're not going to be able to make ends meet, or it's not a good feeling. It's just overall a bad experience. So we want to be able to say thank you. Thank you for the service that you provided. And even if it's not a great experience, I always say to myself, that's a human being there. Okay, maybe they had an off day, but that doesn't mean that they're an off person or that there's any judgment. So I think it's also a good idea to be consistent. If you are a person who values other people, be consistent in your tipping instead of taking it out specifically on a person or persons. If it happens over and over again, let the organization know, and maybe it's not going to be a good fit for you to go there anymore.
Look, this is a double-edged sword in the sense that I truly believe, like every organization should invest in their team. In other words, coach and train them. Teach them on how to handle a bad day. Give them those tools. It's exactly what we do at the British School of Excellence. We work with organizations, whether it be Cartier, whether it be Four Seasons. I've just had the privilege of working with 28 incredible women from an amazing hairdressing salon up in Cambridgeshire last Monday. Again, what a team of wonderful people. And we did a full day of coaching and development on, the power and importance of etiquette and manners and hospitality and customer service and customer excellence. And how to handle those days when you might have an off day, because you've got to show up. It's the same thing as you and I, Dr. Jacalyn. If you've got razor blades in your throat, you've got to show up for the show. So do I. If I'm coaching people, they don't want to know, oh, I'm tired, I hope I can perform today. It's not negotiable. You've got to come in with your A game, and that is it's being professional. And we need to invest in people. In other words, coach and train them and give them the right tools to be more professional, because then it makes everything start to work. And if you read a book such as the Four Seasons book, Business for Life, you read that book and you will see how the Four Seasons made it very clear from the moment they opened the doors was, if we don't invest in our staff, in other words, and treat them the same way as we do the five-star guests, then we don't have a business. We don't have a proper, luxury brand, because the moment you treat your staff with incredible respect and understanding, and you instill good training and coaching, the likelihood are they going to remain. And someone once said to me, yeah, but what happens if you invest all this money and they leave? Well, what happens if you don't invest the money and they decide to stay? So there's a double-edged sword there, and this is an amazing, I think it's almost another show we could have on how important it is for organizations, whatever the organization is. This is not just in the so-called restaurant, brasserie, hotel, luxury boutique hotel, bed and breakfast industry. This is business across the board, right across the board. It's something that we've adopted in our organization years ago. I put a program together for Barclays Bank in Mauritius, and it was all very much around what we called hospitality and banking. And bringing back the old school connection goes back to human, because that had been a big disconnect in the organization. People were going into work, it was a job's worth, it was mundane, they knew they could cruise through the day, and they know that pretty much I've got a job for the rest of my life. That sort of mindset and attitude. And nowadays, more so than ever before, we've got to invest in ourselves in whatever industry we go into. But if we can invest in our people skills, I'm telling everybody out there right now, that will serve you till you depart this earth.
Absolutely. Spot on, Philip. Thank you. One comment that I have, which really I think dovetails with what you were saying, is when you are interfacing with people, with the public, you have to be very mindful of what you're saying to people and how you're coming across. So, in other words, if someone booked in for a coaching session, Philip, with you or with me, and the first few minutes before we're even getting started, oh yeah, I don't feel well today. They're thinking, what? I don't want to hear, like, I'm hiring you for a certain service. I don't want to hear about the fact that you're not doing well. This is not about you. This is about me. And it reminds me, I went in for an operation on my finger. I got a piece of glass stuck in my finger. This is a long, long time ago. And I was waiting for the surgeon to come in, and everybody was in the room, and they hadn't given me any, I think they were giving me a local, I forget. And the surgeon showed up. He was late. And he's like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I was out on the golf course. I had a few drinks and I missed the time. And I was like, what? I thought to myself, what? Like, you are actually saying this in front of the patient. You've been drinking. You're late. People don't think about how they're showing up, because if you don't value your client and look at that person as a human being, they're giving you their money. They're giving you their trust. They're giving you their respect. And you're showing up with, yeah, I'm not in a great mood today. Who cares? Table it.
And that's exactly what I was referring to earlier about and sharing with these young ladies. For example, just I used last week, we do it with everyone walks through the door in the coaching and training, is how to circumvent that mindset when it's negative, or you're feeling tired, or what you could have a headache, whatever it is, bad night's sleep. No one cares. You've got to show up, and you've got to show up on your A game every single time. You've got to find consistency in who you are and what you're about. And it's the old adage, act until you become. I don't like the term fake it until you make it, but act until you become. And find tools to shift your mindset for the time you need to show up and be on your A game. After that, if you want to go home and throw the duvet over your head, so be it. That's fine. And write the day off. That's one of those things. But when it comes to customer excellence, customer service, not on any level can you let on that you are not having a good day, or you've got a headache, or your throat is killing you, or anything like that at all.
It's so true. And I just want to add to that as well, that when you're part of a team, remember that what you're saying can impact the rest of the team members. So if you show up and you say, I have a sore throat, I don't know if I just, no. I mean, so what is the proper etiquette if you're not on top of your game, but you still have to perform? What do you do? What do you say? Because it may very well affect your performance. You may not be showing up at the highest level. Do you preface it by saying, hey, listen, I'm good. I'm on top of it, just not 100% where I usually am, but don't worry, it's going to be fine, because now I'm worried.
Go and do some mindset work. Go and do some power poses. Go and think of a time in your life where you felt you could walk on water. Think of, I know easier said than done, but again, this is like creating good habits for oneself. We've all got to come out on top, and put our best foot forward. Look, I'd go there. Absolutely. We're human beings, it's going to happen. There's going to be a moment where you are not on your best form, and that could be for a plethora of many reasons. But you've got to come, and you've got to bring your A game, and you've got to find those tools. And let me tell you, there are incredible tools out there. A lot of what we coach and teach people on, just how to elevate yourself so that you can be near at your A game. Maybe, and no one else is going to know. This is the other thing, is as long as you know that you can put your best foot forward, you can give good service. Maybe it's not your same vavavum energy, but you're still bringing energy, but you're doing your job well. Then that's okay. But not for 1 second can you say to them, well, I don't know if I'll be able to perform today because I did a bad night's sleep, and I'm really sorry if I give you bad service today. That's not acceptable, with all due respect. Then don't show up for work. Call in sick. Again, I'm not suggesting anyone should call in sick, but I think the final sort of get out of jail clause here would be to talk to one or two of your team members that you trust and say, look, I am struggling a bit today. I had an X, Y, and Z situation. I'm here. I'm ready to perform, but I might need a little bit of encouragement. That might be something you could do, and get that teamwork and that team support going as well. Because at the end of the day, with, 2 is better than 1, 3 is better than 1. And if you are in an industry where you've got ability to utilize and lean on your team members, then do so.
Absolutely, Philip. Thank you so much. And what's coming to mind, I know we're over our time, so I would just want to be respectful of your time. We talked yesterday on another show about imposter syndrome. And I think many times we feel we're not worthy and we make up excuses to let people know that we know we're not that great. But meanwhile, we are great. But if I tell you 10 things that are wrong with me, then when I mess up, you already know to expect me to mess up because I told you I'm not great.
Why do people think they're not great? This is something that just drives me absolutely bonkers. Dr. Jacalyn, I mentioned about how Kerry, my wife, is launching a brand very shortly in swimwear. And she's recently come back from the photographic shoot in South Africa. And she bought me the most wonderful apron. I love cooking and I love aprons. And on this particular apron was, if you think you're too small to make a difference, then you've never spent the night with a mosquito. And that's an African proverb. So every single one of us out there, we can bring our A game. We can do the best to our ability. We can go out there. We can get some coaching. We can get some training. We can get people to guide us and steer us. So at the end of the day, there shouldn't be one of those excuses where I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. And if you start voicing that, you're going to start fully believing in that. And those are the things that will trip you up. You might think it, but don't voice it, because the moment we speak, we give life to our words. And we can circumvent that. And if you want to find out where you're going to be 5 years from now, what are you speaking into your life? Are you speaking positively or are you speaking negatively? And that is a fundamental tool and thing and something to really, really think about.
It's so true, Philip. And people don't know what's going on with us. They see us showing up. They don't know that all these things are in the back of our mind. So we don't have to tell them. We're there for a reason. Do what it is we came to do and show up at the highest level. We don't have to give a disclosure or disclaimer that already puts somebody kind of like, oh, wait, they're having a bad day today. But every day is an excellent day at the British School of Excellence. Tell us about the programs that you offer there and who you can help.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, we can help anybody. We start with children as young as 6 with our ETIQUETTE program, moving into teenagers with mindset and confidence, mindset and resilience, mindset and mapping, and mindset and money. We have the polished graduate, the polished student, and the polished professional. We're launching a huge array of e-learning courses which have a low barrier to entry value-wise, but phenomenal content and material. The e-learning platform keeps building on a regular basis. And then we have our flagship program, which is Train the Trainer. Anybody wanting to go into motivating and giving people incredible tools for life, and I'm talking serious tools for life, we deliver the coaching and training in order for you to be able to go out there and do that. We've got a very, very powerful and strong alumni platform, which I know Dr. Jacalyn and I have worked with on the show many times, and it's a global network. We're also a global organization. We have just launched in Qatar and Lebanon. I actually fly off to Qatar tonight to go and see the team out there and work with the team for the next week. So as an organization, we are focused and fastidious about giving people quintessential tools to just improve on a daily basis to help you, again, achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And if we have a dream, that's the best start. And then you find a way on how to get closer to your dream. And that's what we can help you with right across the board.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Philip. We've been sharing your contact information through QR codes and then also through the banner here. Just let everyone know again, email, website, LinkedIn, how should they reach out?
Great. Hello at thebritishschoolofexcellence.com or the website, thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. And from the website, you can sign up to our newsletter and sign up to all our social channels. We deliver and offer a huge amount of material and education through the various different social channels. So please do make contact at your convenience, and we would love the opportunity to connect with you, engage with you, speak with you. And if we can help you or guide you in any way, please just let us know.
Thanks so much, Philip. And thanks for making the time today. And I wish you very safe travels and look forward to seeing you again for our next episode.
Fantastic. Lovely to see you. Have a great weekend, Dr. Jacalyn. And don't forget the tip jar at your next gym class, eh? Rattle it, ring the bell, ding, 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 ding.
Absolutely. Thanks again. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you to everyone who's watching, whether it's on the live or the replay. We really do appreciate you. Please do reach out to Philip and his team. They can bring so much value to you. They've had so many alumni who have walked through their doors and have been here on this program and have shared their experience. And they're actually a cohort. They're a community. They're alumni who are together and helping support one another. We'd like to help support you and the work that you're doing as well. So if you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com. You can go ahead and book your session. If you'd like to share any feedback about our show today, or if you have any questions, I'm going to put up Philip's contact information again. His email is hello@the BritishSchoolOfExcellence, and the website is thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. We do have some exciting programs coming up with some really amazing guests who are going to be talking to us about the power of etiquette and manners in formats that you might not actually think of. That's what I love about this platform. We're consistently looking to bring you something that is new and exciting, that might be information that you're not aware of. So again, if you have a topic or something that you want us to share on this program, please do reach out. That's all for right now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and thanks for being here.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I find really I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
These few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school, this class is the best, this is the best school ever.
You should take it. It's just, it will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you, BS.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.